حلمنا، واللي نقوله اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. أجيال ورا أجيال هتعيش على حلمنا، واللي نقوله اليوم محسوب على عمرنا. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. الحلم هو مستحيل مدام تحقيقه مباح، والليل لو صار طويل أكيد من بعده صباح. الحلم هو مستحيل مدام تحقيقه مباح، والليل لو صار طويل أكيد من بعده صباح.
قول انت بكل ما فيك، ان كان لك ولا عليك، حاول جرب وبتوصل، شرف التجربة يكفيك. قول انت بكل ما فيك، ان كان لك ولا عليك، حاول جرب وبتوصل، شرف التجربة يكفيك.
جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا.
عرف زمانك من تكون، ارضى طموحك، اجتهد، افتح لمرآتك عيون يبصر بها من جا بعد. عرف زمانك من تكون، ارضى طموحك، اجتهد، افتح لمرآتك عيون يبصر بها من جا بعد. اتحدى الكون واتمرد وتعلم تبقى جريء، مشوار الألف ميل خطوة تبدأ بطريق. اتحدى الكون واتمرد وتعلم تبقى جريء، مشوار الألف ميل خطوة تبدأ بطريق.
جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. جايز ظلام الليل يبعدنا يوم، إنما يقدر شعاع النور يوصل لأبعد سما. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا. ده حلمنا طول عمرنا، حضن يضمنا كلنا كلنا.
محتاج العدل القوة علشان تقدر تحميه، ولا عمري بكلمة وشكوى حقي بيرجع أراضيه. محتاج العدل القوة علشان تقدر تحميه، ولا عمري بكلمة وشكوى حقي بيرجع أراضيه. والحب النار وشرارة، وعيون مليانة بشارة، بيعيد تكوين العالم، أطفال بيدي أحجارة. والحب النار
صباح الخير. أهلا وسهلا بكم. Welcome to our
Welcome.
panel today. It is on October 29th, 1965, 65 years ago. Excuse me a minute.
60.
60 years ago, 1965, I'm sorry. 60 years ago, an internationalist Moroccan Arab African revolutionary leader disappeared. He was kidnapped. Today, we are commemorating 60 years since his abduction, and we believe martyrdom, but we are going to be discussing that of Mehdi Ben Barka, and we are honored to have with us today in the Ahmed Teaching Palestine Open Classroom two amazing guests, Dr. Bashir Ben Barka, the son of Mehdi Ben Barka, and a professor and a scholar and intellectual, as well as Dr. Mati Munjib, who's also a professor, a writer, and also the author of the biography of Mehdi Ben Barka. And my name is Rabab Abdel Hadi. I'm the director and the senior scholar of the Arab and Muslim Ethnicity and Diaspora Studies program at San Francisco State University, and the initiator and principal investigator of Teaching Palestine, Pedagogical Praxis, and the Indivisibility of Justice. But before we start with any of our proceedings, I turn it over to my colleague, MX Laith Gholoum, who is the graduate student now in the University of Minnesota. He Laith is all but dissertation, finished all the requirements for the PhD, and was also a master's student at San Francisco State University, finished their ethnic studies master, and is also an assistant at the Ahmed Studies program. And Laith will start us off with the land acknowledgement and other necessary and important aspect of the program on behalf of the Ahmed Studies program. I turn it over to you, Laith.
Hello, everyone. I'll start out with the land acknowledgement. The campuses of San Francisco State University on the San Francisco Peninsula and North Bay.
I don't hear well.
I'll speak up. The campuses of San Francisco State University on the San Francisco Peninsula and North Bay are located within the occupied territories of the Rametush Ohlone and the coastal Miwok, who along with the Southern Pomo are organized as the Federated Indians of Grattan Rancheria. And I also wanted to thank all of our co-sponsors, Arab and Muslim Ethnicities and Diasporas Studies, or Ahmed Studies at San Francisco State, Teaching Palestine, Pedagogical Praxis and the Indivisibility of Justice, the Palestinian Arab and Muslim Caucus, or PAM Caucus, and Metro Vancouver United for Palestine, or MVUP. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to also explain the flyer and the flyer that we have shared with you. Is the flyer still up, Laith?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we keep it up for a while?
Yes. Yeah.
Just so people can talk about it a little bit before, so people can understand where we're at. Let me say why that is, because this is an open classroom. This is part of the Ahmed Studies program and part of the Teaching Palestine Pedagogical Praxis and Indivisibility of Justice. We have started this open classroom a long time ago, and it became a necessity after the global pandemic because all our instruction became online. And we have been hosting people engaging, and the idea of the open classroom that was before online, it was in person, is to bring scholars, activists, elders into the classroom and bring students to meet elders, what we call living archives, in addition to the archives, but we also renovate the archives to not only think about the colonial archives, but to also look at what we think of the people's archives that contest the colonial archives, bring them to meet with each other, meet the older generation with the newer generation, and also commemorate anniversaries that are very important to people's liberation, and to be able to produce different kind of knowledge, justice-centered knowledge, by hearing the voices of the people, learning from their perspective, and centering knowledge and seeking justice as we study what we are doing, where we are going to. And these open classrooms have become online in order for us and we open the classroom to everybody around the world. So the classrooms are not only for the students, the classrooms are open to anyone who's interested, and they are free. Anyone around the world who's interested, they stay online. People can study and learn and move on and ask us questions. And also, if they are interested, audit our classrooms for free. This flyer here today has several images that I'm going to say what they are, so people can go and dig them out. Sometimes they're actually part of the exam that the student have to comment on. So the first image to your left, it says OSPAL. It's Organization of Solidarity of People of Africa, Asia, and the OSPAL, Organization of Solidarity of
Latin America.
Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And I will say what they are, or maybe we will say what they are, because Professor Bashir attended one of them. Then the next is the tricontinental. It means three continents: Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And this is the cover of the magazine, one of the covers of the magazine. That it is both of them are actually my pictures. I took them myself at OSPAL before it was closed down in 2019, and we'll talk about it, the Tricontinental Journal, more. Next to it is the bust of Ben Barka outside the OSPAL office in Cuba, in Havana, Cuba, and this was also a picture I took in 2018. To go to the second row, this is a poster that OSPAL made of Ben Barka, and that you see that how his image fades little by little, because he was kidnapped, and we don't know what happened afterwards, but we will be discussing that. Next is another poster of Ben Barka that OSPAL made. Next to it is the banner of Ben Tricontinental at the entrance of it, where we actually spent like a week scanning and collecting posters and documents and so on. I mean, right before the OSPAL was closed down. And the last image is the biography of Ben Barka that Professor Mati Munjib actually wrote. So we will be discussing that. So these are every time.
Yababi, excuse me. I want to add that the bust of Mehdi at the OSPAL was made by the artist who made the statue of Che Guevara in Santa Clara.
Okay, thank you. I was waiting for you to also discuss more about that later on, but you did it here. But that's okay. It's all dynamic. And so this is the flyer, and the music that we've had now, we just heard. It is a chorale of Yemen children who sang this song is called operette, actually, Al-Hulm Al-Arabi, the Arab Dream, that was made in 2000, right when Intifada Al-Aqsa, the Aqsa Intifada, which started in September 28, 2000, when Ariel Sharon, past Israeli minister, they call it of defense, but we call it of war criminal, who went into the Aqsa Mosque, and the Palestinian Intifada started. And so many Arab artists came together and they sang from different Arab countries. They sang this. And this is a version that Yemeni children sang on the 23rd of December 2023, right after the Israeli genocide started, the most recent chapter of Israeli genocide started, which is now a war of genocide to eliminate as many Palestinians as possible. And so these children sang it. And every time we have an event, we also start with some music, and we say what it is and what's origin and so on. So these are some couple of things that are important also for the students to know when you are writing your class reflections for the class. The other thing that I wanted to say that we do here is, I mentioned why do we do the open classroom, and we will go as we go along. We've had many of them, and some of them on the anniversaries. We also need to remember that November 1st, around this period, there are many anniversaries in November. On November 1st was the anniversary of the creation of the Algerian National Liberation Front, and there is many. You read a lot, and some of you in my class, you already saw the Battle of Algiers, the feature that looks like a documentary about what happened from 1954 to 1962. We've studied Fanon, and we read about him, and we studied this is his 100 year since his birth. So this is something that's already included in your classes. And I also want to, yesterday, this November 2nd, was the 108th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, which was a declaration by the British Secretary of State, or the Foreign Secretary, given to the Zionist movement, promising to give a land of Palestine, which was not for owned by the British, to the Zionist movement, which was not theirs, to create the Zionist regime, settler colonialism, in the land of Palestinians. And on your syllabi for the students, you see that I've assigned the speech by Dr. Salman Abu Sitteh, one of the major Palestinian scholars and writers and historians, that he gave in Edinburgh, and he basically spoke to Balfour. And this is where we say speaking truth to power. He didn't speak to Balfour to appeal or to beg. He spoke to Balfour Palestinian truth. So it is there. It's also, I posted it yesterday on X, the whole speech, and it has a video. It would be really good for you to watch the video and listen to the speech as well. And there is a lot of writing about it. Many, many Palestinian scholars and leaders. We also did a whole program in 2022 on the 100th anniversary, no, 2017, on the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. And students in the Palestine class in particular, we have chapters and chapters about the Balfour Declaration, what happened. And this is also was one of the reasons Palestinian women's movement organized itself in a conference in 1929. It was the first self-organization of all over the Arab world, what they call Eastern world, after the Baku conference and elsewhere, organized and have protested and defied the British colonial rule and organized themselves to protest the Balfour Declaration and demand its repeal and complete revocation. And also on the next week, it will be the 10th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of UN resolution, Zionism equals racism, and 50 years ago. And then we have November 29th, with the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. Among it will be November 15th, which is the declaration of the Palestinian state in Algiers. And of course, each one of these anniversaries has itself contradictions and promise. November 29th is also the date of in 1947 of the partition of Palestine. So so this was adopted by the United Nations, and November 29th, the Solidarity Day, was also adopted by the United Nations. So we will also discuss the balance of forces. Why did the UN do this? Why did the UN adopt the partition? Why did the UN agree on the quote-unquote the mandate of Palestine in 1921? Why does this happen, and who was in the UN, and so on? And this is very relevant to definitely to the disappearance, the kidnapping of Ben Barka. Just keep thinking about the connections that are happening and who's doing what and where we're at. And this is very relevant to today. We will talk about it later. So these are really important for us to be thinking about. So now I spoke about the very, very amazing speakers. We'll talk more about that. At this point, I want to just get into the program and present the speakers, and we will be having 4 rounds, and each round will pose some questions, and the speakers will be our very esteemed speaker here will be discussing. We will have slideshows, and you please post any questions you have in online We will post the bios of the speakers online, so we don't spend time on the bios. You'll have them forever. They will be online forever as long as the internet works and as long as these platforms work. But we have them so you can see them, and then we will get into the discussion and the conversation. You will see the all of us first online on the screen, and then each speaker will be up by themselves on the screen. And please ask any questions. And I say specifically for this for the students, and the students from 3 classes are attending, at least aside from students by my colleague and members of the organizations that are participating, our colleagues in my in the caucus that I belong to, Palestine Arab and Muslim Caucus of California Faculty Association, which is a very fierce caucus and fierce union. We just finished our assembly last week, and our comrades in Vancouver, who last Wednesday, I think, did a 24-hour non-stop solidarity support online in support of Cuba, to support during the hurricane, but also to support Cuba and demand an end to the blockade by the United States and an end to strangulation, and the determination to continue supporting Cuba, to enable Cuba to stay there and to actually support and extend solidarity to all the people of the world. And this will be also part of our story. So without further ado, we have with us Dr. Bashir and Dr. Moti, and they both will speak to us. And I will, the first round, I would like to ask them, we will be discussing the life, the role, the experiences, the struggle of Mehdi Ben Barka first, so you would know who is Mehdi Ben Barka, his life, his role, his struggle, his everything about him. We can talk about in just 2 hours. We will talk about his role in Morocco, in the Arab world, in Africa, in the world, in tricontinental. All of these details, we want to learn about that as much as we can, and we have no better people to teach us. We want to know about his abduction and kidnapping, what happened to him. We want to know where things are at, what do we do about it. So we will start with the two of you, Professor Bashir and Professor Moti. And so, would you like to start, Professor Bashir? And would you like to speak and then and tell us when you want the slideshow? So welcome. Thank you so much. I'm very happy. I'm even personally very happy to have you both. So please
Thank you,
go ahead.
Dr. Rabab. Thank you, Dr. Rabab, for inviting me at this classroom. About 60 years since the abduction of and martyrdom or disappearance of Mehdi Ben Barka. I want to apologize for my very bad English. I try to speak all the time in English, but I think sometime I should be. I will speak in Arabic, and Dr. Rabab or Mahdi will translate. My first thing I will talk about is the role of with Mahdi and his role in Morocco, Africa, and tricontinental. I think after me, Mahdi will speak about what in more details about what Mahdi did in Morocco during the 4 or 5 first years of the independence. Mehdi was born in 1920. Needless to say, he was deeply affected by the history of the first half of the 20th century, namely the history of the struggle of third world peoples for their independence, but also for their emancipation from the tutelage of our former colonial powers, with the purpose of achieving real economic, social, and cultural developments. More than being a watchful witness of this history, he was directly on the front line. His thoughts and his actions split far beyond the Moroccan, North African, and Arab context, and touched on the fundamental question of his time that remain profoundly relevant to this day: the independence and liberation of third world peoples, democracy, human rights, social justice, underdevelopment, and the construction of new society. As early as 1935, he was only 15, he joined the ranks of the Comité d'Action Marocain, the Committee for Moroccan Action, the precursor of the Istiklal Party, the Independence Party in Morocco. Due to the occupation of France by Nazi Germany, he went to Algiers to pursue his BA in mathematics. Between 1940 and 1942, he thus extended his involvement in the national Moroccan movement by adding to it an international dimension, a North African one in this case. This internationalist vision never left him, since he became committed to avoiding dissociating the struggle of the Moroccan people for justice and democracy so that of peoples from North Africa, from Africa more broadly, and then from the entire Third World. The Tricontinental Conference was the outcome of a process of which one of the key steps was the holding of the Bandung Conference in 1955, which turned out to be a crucial event in the realization of by the African and Asian peoples that they needed to organize to make their voice heard on the international scene and to support their mutual struggles for national liberation. Bandung was a heterogeneous conference made up of government representatives. It quickly became clear that it was necessary to extend the spirit of Bandung into a more radical direction carried by popular organizations rather than by governments. So, in December 1957, the first Conference of Solidarity with the People of Asia and Africa, APSU, is held in Cairo. This time, it is not governments that are represented in the organization, but national liberation movements, as well as progressive and revolutionary parties. The APSU becomes one of the political and militant instruments of the anti-colonial and anti-imperialist struggle. Mehdi Ben Barka soon becomes part of the Secretariat and is named the operational manager of the Fund for Afro-Asian Solidarity, in charge of dispatching material support to national liberation movements fighting on the ground. The social struggle become intimately intertwined with the struggle for independence. Very quickly, the need to extend this Afro-Asian solidarity to the third continent, Latin America, becomes more pressing. Two major events will allow this idea to become a reality: the Cuban Revolution and its victory in January 1959 and the independence of Algeria in 1962. Havana and Algiers, much more so than Cairo and Accra, become rallying centers for African and Latin American revolutionary and national liberation movements. It is in May 1965 that the fourth plenary conference of the APSU held in Ghana, that a date and a place are set for what would become the International Conference of Solidarity with the Peoples of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, called also the Tricontinental. It will be held in Havana in January 1966. Another decision is made as well: the makeup of the preparatory committee in charge of organizing the conference, as well as the presidency of the committee, which is entrusted to Mehdi Ben Barka, thus acknowledging his abilities as an organizer and a negotiator, as well as his extensive knowledge of the situation of different liberation movements, progressive parties, and revolutionary parties. In addition, he is a vital arbiter between Moscow and Beijing. So during the summer of 1965, he repeatedly travels to Cuba and Asia, notably to China and Japan. In Nagasaki, he speaks at the Conference Against Nuclear Weapons. In September 1965, the agenda of the Tricontinental Conference is fixed, and the global call sent by Mehdi Ben Barka is released to advertise the conference. The main position initially developed in Algiers between Mehdi Ben Barka and Che Guevara and Ben Bella are explained here in greater in greater details. I quote, "The solidarity between the peoples of Africa, Asia, and Latin America has been firmly established for a long time. This is already a close link between the peoples of the three continents. They have all had to face the same problems. They have been threatened by the same danger of oppression, aggression, and armed intervention. The people of the three continents feel very strongly about the need for this solidarity, as well as about the need to coordinate their struggle against their common enemy, American imperialism." Unquote. So the Tricontinental Conference will be held in Havana from 3rd and 12th of January 1966, without the man who had devoted all his energy and his latent ability to providing the circumstances of his success. So after that, we will speak about the abduction of my father, Mehdi Ben Barka. So I let Dr. Mehdi Munjib talk about the role, the political role of Mehdi in Morocco during the first years of independence. Thank you. So, Dr. Abab, the voice. Dr. Abab, you are mute. You are mute. Dr. Abab, you are mute. You are mute.
I'm sorry. Yes, Dr. Mati, I'm trying. Because I have hearing problem. I have to.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Mati, do you want to also now talk to us about the Shahid Ben Barka's role, political role in Morocco and
Yes, if you want, but I will.
Slides. Do you want to show the slides now? Whatever you'd like to do.
No. I am just the slides were for the students if they want to go further in their research.
Okay.
And you can also use it if there is a problem of connection.
Okay.
So I will begin with 3 dates very important for Morocco and for Ben Barka. So the first date is October 1928. Ben Barka, as a lot of people know, was from a poor family from Rabat, the historical part of Rabat. He was born there in a small neighborhood with very narrow streets, etc. And there was only one school for the notables, the rich people of Moroccan origin, if you want, because it was during the time of colonialism. But he went to the school and insisted to be enrolled there. So the school refused because it was full, if you want. So he continued to follow the lessons of the teacher, the French teacher, through the window. And he was, Mehdi Ben Barka was very, very small as a, how to say, his height was very, very small. I think, I don't know, Bashir can tell you, but even when he was adult, maybe he was 1.55 m or something. So right. Very, very little, he put himself on a stone and followed the lessons, through the window. After 1 or 2 months, the teacher took him in sympathy and accepted him at school. And then he got baccalaureate. He was the first, he was the leading. He got the first mark, if you want, in baccalaureate. In
top of his class.
Yes, in Morocco, at this epoch, in his specialty, physical mathematics. He got the first, and then after that, he became professor at the French Lyceum, who was consecrated for the French students. But during the Second War, he was obliged to leave, not to study in France, but in Algeria because of as Bashir told it, because France was occupied with the Nazi, troops. So he studied in Algeria, and because of that, this is very, very, very important. He met with the Algerians who will become the leaders of the pro-independence movement and the Liberation Army, the Algerian Liberation Army. He met also with some Africans from French African, the French Africa, if you want, and also with some Tunisians. So he became the most known Moroccan independentist struggling for independence, known in Algeria and then in Maghreb. The second date is November 1955. Between the two dates, Ben Barka became the main architect of the pro-independence party, of the main pro-independence party, that is Istiqlal. Istiqlal, it means in Arabic, and in Moroccan, independence. So he became the main architect and also the main brain of Ben Barka, of this pro-independence. There were some people who are more known than him, more, if you want, because they were older, like Allal al-Fasi. But the practitioner, the man who did everything in the regions, but also in Rabat for the Istiqlal party, was Ben Barka, and he was put in prison for years by the French. So in 1955, November, he organized the getting back, the arrival of Mohammed V. Mohammed V was a nationalist, an anti-colonialist Sultan of Morocco. And he was exiled, he was dethroned, he was, if you want, he was taken over by the French and then sent into exile in Madagascar. So when there was the movement led by Ben Barka and other leaders, they obliged the French to take Mohammed V and just allowed him to get back to Morocco. So Ben Barka, the situation was very, very, because he was, if you want, he was a technician of organization. And it was possible that Mohammed V could have been killed because the French were departing and there was no Moroccan government, no Moroccan police, no Moroccan army, and there was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people getting to Rabat to receive Mohammed V, who got back from exile. So Ben Barka was charged by the party and also by Mohammed V, because he had, phone calls, phone contact with him when he was in France to his way back to Morocco. And he organized in a very, very, very skillful way the reception of the arrival of Mohammed V. He landed in Saleh near Rabat, and then everything was organized by some kind of unarmed, not armed, parties, militia, who organized everything until the arrival of the king to his palace. So the third date is January 1960. It was the first time that Mehdi Ben Barka was obliged to go into exile, because at this time it was still that Mohammed V was still the king, but the true powers were between the hands of Hassan II, the son of Mohammed V. And so in 1959, Hassan II began his struggle and his repression against the leaders of the nationalist movement in Morocco. At this epoch, we used nationalist. It was normal and it was a glorious if you want, concept not like today. The nationalists were the people who struggled for independence of colonial, peoples. So in January 1960, some of his friends, for example, Abdurrahman Yousfi, who became prime minister later, and also, Basri, who was the main leader of the armed resistance against the French, they were arrested by Hassan II. He wasn't, he was just the crown prince, but he controlled everything in the security of the kingdom of Morocco at this epoch. So he was obliged to leave Morocco in January 1960. He went to Egypt, to France, and also to Africa, to independent Africa. And he was a very likable leader. And he spoke also many, some languages that are, spoken in Africa, Arabic, French, and some English. And also he understood Spanish. So he was very liked by the progressive leadership of Africa and of Arab world. He became, a friend of Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was the president and nationalist, the president of Egypt, but also the main nationalist leader, anti-colonial leader in the Arab world. Also, he made friends with Kwame Nkrumah, who was the leader of Ghana. At this epoch, it was named Gold Coast in Western Africa. He became also friend with Sékou Touré, and also he became friend with Mamadou Dia, the socialist leader in Senegal. And because I wrote with Zakiya Dawood the biography of Ben Barka, I also wrote the biography of his friend who became prime minister of Senegal, Mamadou Dia. So he became, also he met with a lot of leaders in West Africa, and also in some English-speaking African countries, such like Tanzania. Its name was Tanganyika, and he became friend with Nyerere. Julius Nyerere was one of the rare, African leaders that they didn't become, dictators after independence. He was, a mild authoritarian regime, if you want, and he became his friend. And also, he talked to him for the first time about the Israeli danger. Ben Barka named the interventions of Israel in new independent Africa as a danger. And because Nyerere thought that because of the development of Israel, because it was, the population was, European, and was, if you want, educated in new sciences, etc., etc. But Nyerere didn't know that it took the place of another people, that is the Palestinian people. So Nyerere was beginning some cooperation, economic cooperation with Israelis, to take, if you want, advantage of their experience in development, because he thought it was a Middle Eastern society as others, as Arab societies. And this was very important in weakening the relationship between Tanganyika, Tanzania, and Israel. And also, he said the same things to Nkrumah, to Sékou Touré, to other people. I am giving you some details, but there was also the discourse of Ben Barka. His discourse, his writings about and declarations about the Israeli danger of a new colonialism. For him, Israel will maybe try to take the place of old, colonial powers. And he was just thinking to the Palestinian people, because if Israel is accepted by the Arab world, if it is accepted by the African new independent states, I mean, it will dominate. And for him, Israel must be at this epoch isolated from the peoples of the region in a way to lead it to another, to another policies less aggressive against its neighbors, and with a solution for the Palestinian people that was, expelled and deported by the Zionist movement. So because of that, the Mossad was very interested in Ben Barka and will participate in the technical approach, not in the killing itself, isn't sure, but in Mossad, this main intelligence organization of Israel, participated in the technical approach of Ben Barka the day and the days before his abduction. So it is Morocco, who asked the Israelis to participate in the to gather information about the movements and the itineraries of Ben Barka between Europe and also Soviet Union, China. He became a very, very known people, and he decided with some friends like Nasser, Nkrumah, to propose to some Latin American regimes, governments, to organize a tricontinental organization in order to to struggle for the interests and the rights of the former colonial peoples. So Cuba and some other regimes like the regime of in Argentina, in some other countries in Latin America accepted this idea, and Ben Barka was named as the chairman of the committee of preparation of this tricontinental conference in Havana. It was organized in Havana in January 1966. It means about 2 months and a half after his assassination. Why? Because Hassan II was very, very, very anxious about this. That if Ben Barka, because he was normally he would have been elected as the president, as the chairperson of the tricontinental movement, and Hassan II was very worried about that and decided to abduct him. It's not sure that Hassan II personally wanted to kill him. We have no data about that, but it is sure that he gave the instruction of Interior, General of Kier, and 7 years later, General of Kier abducted Ben Barka with some French policemen and with the help of Israel and maybe of CIA, we are not sure. This general who abducted Ben Barka tried to kill Hassan II 7 years later. And after that, the Moroccan monarchy and the Moroccan pro-regime media began to say that it was General of Kier, the Minister of Interior of Hassan II, who decided to kill Ben Barka. But not before that, because even General of Kier wasn't a general at this epoch, at the epoch of the abduction of Ben Barka, but he was, he was heightened, his grade, his military grade was it became, greater and higher after the abduction and assassination of Ben Barka. So Ben Barka had, if you want, 3 adversaries. The Moroccan authoritarian monarchy under Hassan II, not under Mohammed V. Mohammed V was a progressive king, and he was in favor of I mean, some kind of democracy, sharing power between the independentist movement and the palace. Hassan II was for a new, if you want, alliance with the French, with the Americans, against the nationalist Moroccan movement. And so there was this first enemy or adversary. The second adversary was, I mean, the Western, I mean, imperialism, mainly France, until the coming of power of General de Gaulle. I will explain why General de Gaulle didn't have, how to say, an inimical relationship with Ben Barka. He was trying to cooperate with Ben Barka because General de Gaulle was in favor of a tricontinental. Because, do you know, France refused the domination of Soviet Union, but also of the United States. So de Gaulle was thinking that Ben Barka can play a very good role because he was French speaking. He had a lot of good relations with leftist leaders in France, and also with those who were against the domination of the United States. So there was some kind of rapprochement between de Gaulle and Ben Barka. And you know, he was abducted in October 29th, but he had a meeting with the Elysee. We don't know if it was with de Gaulle or with the General Secretary of the Elysee, I mean the Powers Palace, if you want, in Paris. But there was, I mean, a project of meeting between de Gaulle entourage or with de Gaulle himself to prepare. I mean, de Gaulle wanted Ben Barka to meet with him to explain him the objectives of the tricontinental organization. And also he was, you know, because the extreme right, the nationalist extreme right in France war against Ben Barka and also war against all the leaders of independence of the Maghreb. So the extreme right was the main force that participated in preparing the abduction of Ben Barka. And this force was against de Gaulle, I mean the president of France. Why? Because de Gaulle accepted the independence of Algeria. And Algeria was, I mean, seen by 80% of the French as 100% French territory. Why? Because Tunisia and Morocco were protectorates, simple protectorates. But Algeria was, according to the international law and according to the realities, was seen by the French as 100% French territory. It was, Algeria was 3 provinces of France. And so Ben Barka, I mean, as I told you, was preparing this tricontinental, I mean, organization to have some kind of negotiative power with Soviet Union and with the West. And because of that, he was killed. So the third adversary of Ben Barka, after Hassan II and after Western imperialism, was Israel, because he was very active in Africa and in the Arab world against the, how to say, the presence and the increasing of the role of Israel in the Arab world and mainly in Africa. So these 3 forces coalesced to abduct him and to kill him in 1965. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Munjab. Before we move on to the next question, I was wondering, Dr. Bashir, if you have any comments or anything to also continue the discussion. I've also had tons of questions also arising from your both presentation. So, Dr. Bashir, please go ahead.
what we can continue about the abduction itself. Uh, Dr. Munjib explains how the role of Mehdi in the third world, in Morocco and third world, explains his abduction and how the enemies of his struggle uh, plotted to make the end of his actions. Uh, 6 years ago, my father was abducted and assassinated because he was the main opponent of King Hassan II's regime in Morocco, because he played a major role in the struggle of the third world peoples for their liberation and their emancipation. As president of the International Preparatory Committee of the Tricultural Conference, he was at the heart of these great projects regarding its political stance as well as in terms of organization matters. On October 29th, 1965, he was abducted in Paris in broad daylight, falling victim to a conspiracy orchestrated by agents acting for states whose interests were being undermined by this struggle: the Moroccan, the French, Israeli, and probably the American Secret Services, French policemen, and criminals, as Dr. Ma'ti explained. Then he disappeared. His fate and the place of his grave remain unknown to this day. Reason of state, or rather the reason of the states involved in this obsession, prevent the judicial system from establishing the truth. I'll quickly speak about the facts. On Friday, October 29, 1965, Mehdi Ben Barka arrived at Orly Airport at 9 a.m., coming from Geneva, where he lived. He was coming at the request of a newspaperman himself to discuss the plan of Basta, which was the title of a picture on the liquidation of imperialism and colonialism, the last scene of which would be the inauguration of the Tricultural Conference in Cuba. We know now that the project of the picture was a trap to bring Mehdi in Paris, but he didn't know that. He was a Moroccan student of history, Hamid Azmouri, was with him. He wanted to take part with the trading, wanted him to take part in the picture. They both drove in a taxi to Saint-Germain-des-Prés Center at near the Brasserie Lippe, very known cafe in Paris. There, two French police officers asked him to climb with them in their car. He was not wary of these two police officers because, as Patty said, he had also an appointment at the Élysée Palais with the Gaulle itself, or with a counselor near counselor of the Gaulle to talk about the Tricultural. So he climbed in the car of the policeman, and they drove him to the house of a very known gangster, Boucher, at the nearby of Paris. Then his past is lost, and he disappeared. Our questions are still unanswered. Who killed him? Who is his body? Are all the responsibilities established? It is undeniable that the Moroccan political responsibilities at the origin of the kidnapping are at the top of the regime. Even if notorious criminals are used, the French and international complicities at the level of intelligence services, France, Israel, and the United States, and the police are neither vulgar or subaltern, as de Gaulle said afterwards. The Ben Barka case is still under investigation at the Paris Judicial Court. The reasons of states, mainly Moroccan and French, remain today the major obstacle to the action of justice to establish the whole truth about one of the most crimes of states and one of the most scandalous affairs of the French Fifth Republic. These obstacles that prevent the establishment of the truth defense secrecy or classification of archives in France, judicial non-cooperation in Morocco, allow all the infamous accusation to smear the memory of Mehdi Ben Barka. They allow all the operations of deception of opinion by the multiplication of the most sensational stories, announcing in the media hype and announcing in the media hype the end of the mystery, but ultimately bringing no evidence, no answer to the question that that my family has been asking for 60 years. That is why it is urgent that strong political gestures should be made both in Morocco and in France to put an end to the violence of silence, so that the truth can emerge for the family of Mehdi Ben Barka and for his memory. I asked the CIA in 1958 for the declassification of documents related to Mehdi Ben Barka. Initially, the CIA acknowledged possessing more than 1,800 documents in this regard and committed to send them to me. But at the last moment, the alleging national security defense, she finally refused to declassify them. This is the case until now, despite a new operation with Human Rights Watch in 2005. We talk a lot these days about the role of Israel Mossad in a new book. I will not comment on a new version that brings nothing new to that was already known and was already been told, and this without any evidence. We knew the role of Mossad since 1967. He rendered service to King Hassan II, who had recorded the closed-door meetings of the Arab heads of states and chief of staff at the Arab Summit in Casablanca in September 1965, and provided them to Israel. Moreover, the Mossad wanted to get rid of Mehdi Ben Barka, who had denounced, as Mati said, in a seminar organized by the GUPS, the General Union of Palestinian Students in Cairo, in April 1965, that Mehdi Ben Barka denounced the Zionist penetration in Africa and the role of Israel with the apartheid regime in South Africa and the Portuguese colonies. And also Mehdi placed the struggle of the Palestinian people on the agenda of the Tricontinental, considering it as a fight for national liberation. And the French investigation judge requested the declassification of the Mossad archives on this subject, that he received no response. So, today, 60 years later, the memory of Mehdi lives on, even if the truth about his fate still has not been established for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Bashir. Also, I think this is there. I mean, first of all, the information and the analysis that you both are giving is very important, both for history and for clarification of what's going on, and also specifically, I think we're here in the United States, and I think it's very important in general, and it's very important for what's going on for history. My university, the university where Ampos and my students are, is also a place of history. In 1968, it was the longest strike in the history of the student movement in the United States. It led the longest student strike against the university in the history of the U.S., where students from the Black Student Union Third World Liberation Front struck to demand rights to change the curriculum, decolonize the curriculum, demand that departments of Black Studies, departments of Latino, but some it was Rasa Studies, Indigenous Studies, Asian Studies be set, and the students came together and they were connected with forces in the community like Black Panther Party and other groups representing communities. They came together and they led a strike and they demanded, of course, Nixon was the president of the United States. Reagan was the governor of California. They had commissioned reports about them. And so the word was an uproar at that time. There were the movement against the war in Vietnam, students were protesting, people were in the streets. The more advanced elements in the society were supporting the liberation of Algeria and the liberation of people around the world. There were people who were supporting the right of Palestine. There were people who were supporting the Cuba and the liberation of Cuba, and the U.S. engaged in the Bay of Pigs invasion and so on, all the attacks. Some people were aware of what has happened in Bandung in 1955. Some people were aware of what was going on in the Third World, but not many people were aware. So this year also marks the 100th birthday of Patrice Lumumba, 100th birthday of Malcolm X. Not many people knew, and Patrice Lumumba was also assassinated with the help of the United States and the United Nations, the brigades, and also rural forces and leaders from Africa, from the Arab world, like Jamal Abdel Nasser, also intervened to rescue the family of Patrice Lumumba. But not many people actually know that, because there is a separation between the Arab Africa, Arab Asia from the rest of Africa, from the rest of Asia, and there is total separation from Latin America too. So actually bringing the tricontinental, the third word, in a different definition than the third word as opposed to the first word, in a different, not a hierarchy, but in a power, bringing together the word, the colonized word that has been decolonized politically and officially, but not necessarily yet, because colonial powers, even though there was independence, but it wasn't really yet decolonized, right? So there was decolonization going. And anybody like Mehdi Ben Barka, who was rising to challenge that, had to be gotten rid of, because and you want to focus also on the individual. When you talk about revolutionary theory, you also give a role for the individual, because there is a specific role for the individual. Also, there is a specific role for the movements they build, because movements don't get built only by individuals. But if somebody becomes so charming, so well known, so charismatic, leading people, and knows how the alliances work with each other. So they're not only working for their own people, they're working for the humanity, for the indivisibility of justice, for all the world, and so on. Becomes a threat. You have to get rid of them. And this is the way it happened also with the assassination of multiple Palestinian leaders. This was the period of the engagement of colonial forces, and I would there were a lot of investigation and archives coming out that the CIA was involved. It is not something, we can't just rely on the Israeli Ronen who wrote that book about Mossad. He was a Mossad agent. Now he is out. He can actually publish this stuff. Part of it is because also Israel is very much interested in making the whole world afraid and say, here we are. We have all this power and so on. And he makes money also of selling his books. So, and not all of this stuff comes out, because there is a block on what gets released and what doesn't get released from the archives. So some of the stuff, as you say, Dr. Bashir, so they have all of this information, but they won't release it, because this is not in their power, in their interest to release it. And this also, so that I think I love the way that you're bringing all this information together, talking about it in an analytical way and in a connected way, because people always sometimes say something about some area, and you are bringing the ways in which Ben Barka was connecting people in the justice for people in Morocco, for the people who need economic justice, women and youth who need social justice, the people who are in the Arab world, his connection with the Palestinians, his connection with the Nasser, his connection with the justice in Africa, his recognition of the ways that Israel tries to infiltrate everywhere, because normalization, making Israel normal in the world, because this is very, very, very important for Israel, because Israel is not recognized around the world. And for Israel to make itself a recognizable country, also trying to apply to the European Union as well. And it tried until the Togo summit, they tried to also be part of the African Union. Why? It's not even in Africa. I mean, this is the normalization before October 7. All of this stuff comes together, but also this solidarity, bringing Cuba, connecting with Cuba, all of these things, thinking about socialism, thinking about a better world. I think all these issues come together and thinking about what else do they need to do, going against people, not allowing a person to go back to their country. There is a moment that it becomes not enough. It is, you have to get rid of the person themselves. You have to literally get rid of the person. And this is what, how do you explain the assassination of Ghassan Kanafani? Never carried a gun in his life. Israel keeps saying it's security, security. What is there? It's the thought, it's the mind, it's the ability to analyze and be charming and lead people and point to the truth. So I think all of these things that you're bringing together, how they come together then, and how they are coming together now, and the continuation in the US. I'm sure you know there is the program that was discovered called COINTELPRO, Counterintelligence Program, by some people who were actually trying to stage some archives, thinking that they might be able to find something like the Pentagon Papers, to have more evidence on how the United States doing more harm in Vietnam and so on. And then they stumbled on the counterintelligence program that was assassinating and against liberation movements in the United States, of Black Panthers and other Black Power movements, Puerto Ricans, Asians, and so on, Chicanos. You know, was proven. If the evidence wasn't there, people would not believe it, because the whole reputation also, these are just people going around terrorizing, quote unquote, law and order. I think what you are talking about, all of that, and the whole question of understanding is really, really important. But one big part in the problem in the United States, even people who you might think very progressive, actually do not know much about they do not know much about what happens in Africa, Asia, and even the rest of Latin America. And even the knowledge about Cuba is very minimal. But they definitely don't know much about the Arab world and don't know about the connections. So I think this is also in itself, it's very, very important to explain it is not just about a story. It's about one individual, but it's not about an exotic story about espionage. It is, but it's also much more than that. To what extent do imperialist and colonialist power go into? And then what does it really mean when when does colonialism end? That just because a country gets independence, has a flag and a ruler, what does it mean? And when you are demanding more and connecting more with people who are wanting more, how dangerous does this become? And I just would like you to just maybe comment on this, and then I want us to talk about the whole question of disappear and what does this mean. So go ahead. It looks like Dr. Bashir wants to jump first, and then maybe Dr. Go ahead.
So I want to add something. The response of the United States at the Tricontinental was the Trilateral Committee, who led to the assassination of Che Guevara, who led to the dictatorship of Chile, to lead to the Condor Plan, with the thousands of assassinations of disappearance in Latin America, with the military coups and the military governments in Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay during the 70s. Look, that was the response of the imperialism to the will of the people to make stronger their solidarity. So it is a criminal response to a revolutionary movement, was the Tricontinental. Thank you.
Definitely. And I mean, wherever you look around, also, Dr. Martin Manjib, do you want to say something?
Yes, Ben Barka in reality was the representative, I mean, the main representative at this epoch of a current of ideas and of policies to organize the third world to get freedoms from the Western imperialism and also to be independent from the Soviet Union, but in collaboration with it. And so when he disappeared in 1965, he wasn't the only one who disappeared, at least from the power. In the same year, Ben Bella, the president of Algeria, was overthrown by a military coup. And he wasn't a military, he was a civilian, leader of the pro-independence movement of Algeria. But he was much more, if you want, revolutionary and for a social democracy in Algeria more than the military. The same year, Sukarno was overthrown in Indonesia. And what I am hearing some noise. So the same year, Sukarno was overthrown just weeks before the abduction of Ben Barka. And Ben Barka was traveling to meet with him when he learned in Tanzania that he was overthrown, Sukarno. Also, the years after that, I don't. Is there any problem? Because I am hearing some noise. I can continue if you want. So the years also just after the abduction of Ben Barka, this repression, if you want, of the leaders of the progressive third world that wanted to unite, that wanted to develop, that wanted to be free from Western imperialism. This leadership was, he was, struggled against by the Western imperialism. In 1966, his friend Nkrumah was overthrown by a military coup organized by the CIA. And I know some, secret information about that. Because in 2002, I met with a former intelligence leader in Morocco, but he was working for Ben Barka and his party. He was the second man of the main intelligence organization in Morocco, but he was a double agent, if you want. He was working for the leftist opposition. And then they tried to assassinate him in 1962, and he fled to outside Morocco. And he told me that when he was the second man of this intelligence Moroccan organization, that he took a file from his work and gave it to Ben Barka, and it was the project of the CIA from Morocco to overthrow Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, who was a progressive anti-colonial leader of Ghana. And he told me that Ben Barka took photos of this file and maybe give it to Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. So there was some kind of high wire, that was, played by these very courageous leaders, but they were, they were between two fires, if you want. Western imperialism and the military and conservative groups, pro-colonial groups in the third world societies. And so Ben Barka, if he was killed, if he was obliged to leave, because not all the Moroccans were, agreed with him, because he was a progressive guy. He was a progressive leader. He wanted to change the pro-rich economy, if you want. He wanted to put an end to the domination of the feudals in the countryside. And these feudals were the main collaborators of colonialism in Morocco. But the monarchy was afraid of that. Because, if you struggle against these feudal leaders in the countryside that were collaborating with the French against the Moroccan nationalist movement, and they were also against Mohammed V when he was asking and struggling for Moroccan independence. But once he got back, to again to the throne, he was also a little bit hesitating to put an end to the domination of the colonial economics, if you want, that were dominated by the feudals of the countryside and also by some pro-colonial bourgeois and businessmen and women. At this epoch, women were very rare in the business, in the big business, if you want. But there was some kind of alliance between the throne, the feudals of the countryside, and a big part of the urban entrepreneurs. So Ben Barka got problems to have the support of this how to say the economic class, if you want. And Hassan II behaved very, very cleverly, in a very clever way, and allied with the notables of the countryside, allied with the pro-colonial entrepreneurs that were working with the colonial powers, Spain and France. And so this was more Marxist, if you want. Hassan II was as an analyst, not as a morality or a political ethics. He was Marxist, and he recognized it as an analyst, because he knew that Hassan II, he knew that the economic interests are very important in the choice of the political orientation of the people, of political actors. But Ben Barka, he was, we can say, the second man of the Moroccan, political class, the political, how to say, elite at the epoch of Muhammad, just after the king. But he stayed poor. The majority, even of the leaders of nationalism, of the nationalist movement, because of the departure of the French, of the Spanish, there was their fortune. It changed hands from the Europeans to the Moroccan elite. But Ben Barka just got a salary as president of the first consultative parliament, and then was just helped by his friends, in progressive countries like Nasser in Egypt, and like Ben Bella. Ben Bella gave him as the equivalent of a salary of foreign affairs, of a minister of foreign affairs. But Barka, when he was killed, he was really poor. He had no, how to say, a monthly salary like a professor or an engineer or a political leader. So Ben Barka was really also a morality, was also an ethical choice that is very, very rare. And in general, such people, in general, in history, even during Chinese times and Greek times, they were in general killed. And this is bizarre about what we can say human politics. Thank you.
So you both have raised a lot of issues that come up a lot in one of my classes, in all, but specifically this class on colonialism, imperialism, and resistance, which one of the classes I'm teaching now, and the students will be learning a lot from what you are saying. And some of the issues I just want to touch upon and just bring them together. That, for example, when we talk about Bandung in 1955, many people until now also, there is a debate, what did Bandung really accomplish and what was it trying to do? And what you were talking about, Dr. and Munjib is that majority of the leaders of Bandung were targeted. The ones who, because the United States in particular, which was the leader of imperialism by that time. By that time, the European powers had already weakened. The U.S. becomes the leader. Yeah, and so there was also a fear of all these people from Asia and Africa standing there and coming together. They were coming together to decide how do they balance themselves between USSR and United States. They weren't leaning either way. They were trying to figure out economically also, as Samir Amin says, a non-capitalist path to development. They were not saying they want to be socialist. Actually, many of them were not really lovers of communism. They were a bit anti-communist with their talks and so on and so forth. If you look at it, but the United States could not stand them. Could not have people who might be independent, who might be wanting liberation, national liberation, and who might want to also have colonial liberation, as you've been talking about, without the, let's say, call them comprador bourgeoisie, the local bourgeoisie, the feudalist class, and so on, who end up mimicking the colonialism, but with the local faces, black skin, white mass, if you will. Okay. And so then they come in and they replace, and that's not independence, because that's still colonialism and neocolonialism, right?
Yes.
And then within a few years, all of these leaders are gone. When if they had actually, if maybe if imperialism had left them aside, they might not have become so radical. Because if we know about Jamal Abdel Nasser was not necessarily such great relations with the Soviet Union, and it was the United States who intervened when the trilateral aggression came against Egypt with Israel, Britain, and France, and stopped, the aggression. But the U.S. the U.S. and the other colonial could not stand that he nationalized the Suez Canal, that he thinks that Egyptian resources should belong to the Egyptians, not to anybody else like King Farouk. So that was not acceptable. So they attack and attack and attack, and the U.S. starts attacking. Of course, he has support from the Soviet Union. Why shouldn't he take it? And the high dam and everything else. So this is Ben Bella, the same thing. And Ben Bella gave refuge to every liberation movement. It was from the African National Congress to the Black Panthers. This is where the Palestinians met the other liberation movements from other parts of the world. Remember, the Soviet Union it was only China that recognized the Palestinians. Other big powers did not recognize the Palestinians at the time. And then Ben Bella could not even hold the non-aligned movement there. That's where Ben Barka comes in and wants to hold the non-aligned, becomes the tricontinental, because Ben Bella couldn't do it. He was overthrown, the whole was blown up, and so on. So any power that starts leading, and so then the non-aligned movement that at one point was only leaders coming together, even though the communique is excellent, actually has much more teeth. But then all one leader after another starts gotten rid of, or some of them become co-opted, become bought off, and the others are, you can't stay, we want to get rid of you. And the ones that you spoke about, Bashir, from the assassination of Che, the way they've done, and I saw his own the medical crutcher that he was carried on after he was assassinated in the museum in Cuba. The way they did it, and they display it. I mean, and this is what the way, but the Israelis have tried even recently. Now, when we have things live streamed, they try to do that with Palestinian fighters. I mean, they failed a lot of the times. But they also try as a way to defeat and instill a sense of defeat in the people who are fighting. We are doing this. They do everything to kind of use the propaganda as well. And so and all of this, yes, that disappeared, and there is still thousands and thousands of desaparecidos in Chile, in Argentina, in Brazil, everywhere. I mean, there's mothers of the Plaza de Mayo that actually, we have many as Palestinians, not only the missing people now in Gaza that the Israel give back, and they say they return the bodies of the martyrs. Their families cannot even recognize them. Not only because there are many body parts missing, because the Israelis steal them, steal the eyes, steal the cornea, steal the organs. This has been going on for a very long time, by the way, but it was few and far in between. Now it's en masse, and you can't recognize who they are. But also there is so many bodies of martyrs from the 80s, from the 70s, that are buried in number cemeteries that Israel only knows where they are, and they won't give them back to their families. And now Israel already ordered that nobody's will be returned. So families cannot even have a burial, dignified burial for their children, so they can also know a place where I know that Bashir, you said in one of your talks that we don't know whether, and I think your mom before she passed away, may she rest in peace, that we want to be able to bury him. We want to know we're able to bury him. France still holds skulls of Algerian fighters that they display in the museum, and they claim that they are civilized and we are savages, but they display skulls of people in museums to go watch them. And so all of this stuff, it is in addition to the wholesale colonialism and imperialism and suppression of people, they also do inhuman, very brutal ways in order to humiliate, in order to defeat, in order to crush, in order to suppress people. And it seems like there is a book that they all share, these recipes, and they develop them and they build upon them. And the more people are defiant, the more there is more crushing. The good news is that people keep rising up. There is much more solidarity, as you were saying, Bashir. People keep coming up, and people keep realizing that this is not acceptable, because also people want to eat, people want to live, people want to survive. So I think I was wondering if you can speak before we come to the whole question of accountability and justice. You were at the Tricontinental, Bashir. So it's ironic and it's sad. But can you tell us about how you and I mean I was really I was pleasantly surprised to see the bust of Ben Barka, the posters there at the OSPAL. Too bad OSPAL is no longer, but it was really great. There's recognition. It's pleasant. But you were there. Can you just say, and they're going to continue meeting. What was your impressions? What was the response from people? What was, and maybe Bunjib can speak afterwards.
Yes, I went to Spal in 2014 with my wife and my two daughters, and it was very, very nice reception from the General Secretary of the Spal, and we took pictures and speeches at the bus. It was very, very, very très chaleureux, very
friendly.
Yes. And but unfortunately, the OSPAL had disappeared. So we missed the Tricontinental Review. We missed the Tricontinental Legacy. So I don't understand why the Cubans stopped the OSPAL. So if you have, if you Rabab have any information about that.
No, I didn't even know. I mean, we spent I was on another conference and presenting. We did a panel on Teaching Palestine. It was a conference for Caribbean studies, and one of our colleagues, we had gone to Palestine for Teaching Palestine conference and delegation because it was the 100-year of Balfour. It was the anniversary of Nakba. It was several anniversaries. So we organized a trip with Palestinian universities and a delegation. And one of our colleagues, she's Haitian, a Haitian scholar, and I had met her through some fellowship. And she said, this is what's going on. We were in Jordan. She said, oh, I'm going to the Caribbean Studies Association. I said, oh, really great. And she said, oh, but it's too late to do something there. Let me try. So she tried, and then the colleagues who were in charge, they said, yes, definitely, panel on Palestine. So we went, we attended the panel. They did take very good care of us, in Cuba. And so it was my first trip. I have never been there. I've always wanted to go. And then we wanted to go. We went to Ospal. It was a Palestinian. One of the leaders in Ospal was a Palestinian. Unfortunately, 200 members of his family were killed in Gaza. Like now, he at the time he was there working and so on. So he met us in Ospal, showed us everything. We met with everybody, and so then I love working on archives and so on. Me and another colleague of mine was at the time my graduate students. Now he's a professor at University of Chicago, Salim Shhade. We said, can we come and look? And they said, okay. So we went and we started looking at the magazines, reading them. So the posters, I mean, all of my God, the smell of dusty paper. It's just so beautiful, and a lot of Palestinian archives are lost, so you know how you feel about that. So we said, can we come? And there was this woman who's amazing. She works on the archives with very, very old scanner, very old computers, and she said, yes, come. So we were there from early in the morning until night, taking pictures, from the whatever is there. So much archives. And I'm like, I said, okay, I want to come back. And she said, of course, come and we will do it. And so we were there. We took a lot of photos, a lot of inside, but not everything. Just there isn't enough. There is pictures, there is articles on Palestine, there are articles on Lebanon. There is a lot, but on South Africa, it's not enough to do. And then I thought we will be back. And then that was in June 2018. And then within a few months, they announced that Ospal will be closed. What happened? I have no idea. I think the only thing is that the financial. I mean, Cuba is being strangled by the U.S. blockade. So I think it was a financial decision. And this is what goes. I mean, this is, either you have like Israel comes and destroying everything. So you have nothing left from not only people, lives, but also intellectual, cultural, education, everything is gone. Or this is the way they do it. So you can't really produce knowledge. You can produce anything when they are crushing you like this. I'm sure they have it. They have it somewhere. They're actually trying to kind of like scan and produce archives and so on. But I think it's very, very rough. And it's so sad because you go there, I mean, you can spend years just studying what is going on. I mean, maybe we can talk to them and ask them to do that, because it just has so much. Just reading, just looking at the table of content of every single issue. And it's not only just about Palestine. There is so much. This one is a Palestinian drawing that they put it on the cover, but they have so many. There is so many. They have them. I didn't take the pictures of like Palestinian gorillas carrying, because this is something in the US very, very problematic these days, very dangerous. So we don't use these images, but there is so much. I think this is something that we are going to be doing, teaching Palestine in Cuba soon. So definitely you will be on top of the list to work together and go there. And it's and I don't know where they put the bus and the posters. And I bought so many posters, but then we had a big flood and all the papers and books, a lot of my stuff was lost. But man, but I want us to like think about how do we get this knowledge across to so many people who don't know? How much people know about this for us, for our program, and for Palestine, for the third world, for tricontinental, the idea of it, the idea of people coming together in the US, people who are conscious in the, let's say, Black community, Latinas, Rasa, people who are really, really radical. And today this is coming out, recognize the idea of third worldness. They recognize, and many people here call themselves third world. They refuse to be referred to as minorities. They refuse, because that will be minorities of the United States. They do not like to be domesticated, and they don't like to be assimilated. They don't, and they say there is something wrong with the U.S. nation state, that is settler colony that engage in the genocide of some Indian nations. This is the country that engaged in wholesale formal slavery. This is a country that discriminates against everybody, and it's now even without apology. We don't really want to. We want to be able to connect ourselves with the third world. So there is a very clear sense of rising justice, understanding, and so on today, but it's not enough. My students don't know history. They don't know the history of their own university. They don't know the history. They don't know the history of the Chicano movement, the moratorium. There is disappeared, for example, Mexico, 43 students. who were going on a trip on their own, they were all disappeared. Nobody knows where they are. There is so many disappeared in everywhere in Chile. Everybody wants the bodies. Everybody wants to know what happened to our children. And of course, we have this big issue in Palestine. Society, study groups, and so on want this everywhere. Lebanon, actually, in 2022, at the 40th anniversary of Sabra and Shatila, there were at least 17,000 missing in Lebanon. Not this is the official number. We know so many more from Tel Zatar and Sabra and Shatila and so on. Everywhere there are people missing. Everywhere. We do not know where the opponents of regimes are gone, what is happening, and so on. And we don't know. And so this is something, these are people, humans. And so this is a very big issue. This is an issue. If you are able to have justice and accountability for Mehdi Ben Barka, imagine the impact of this justice, this crime, on other people. Imagine what would it mean. My research, I call it, where are our martyrs? Where are they? Where are our martyrs? When are they going to get justice? So this is something really important. It has a huge impact. This is one aspect of the colonialism and the crimes that they are committed, and they cannot escape. There has to be accountability. So I want you to talk about, if you also have other things to talk about, maybe a few minutes before we open up for questions. What do you, and Laith, if you don't mind, please curate the questions. What do you think? What needs to happen? How can we make this bigger than it is?
I think Marty want to say something. Marty.
Accountability and justice. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that Moroccan civil society and the family of the martyr Mehdi Ben Barka maybe now address a letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations and to explain him that two states, even after 60 years after the crime, that these two states, France and Morocco, are not allowing the family and the Moroccan population to know where is the body of Mehdi Ben Barka, and to organize some kind of a mediatic and international campaign for this truth about Mehdi Ben Barka. And as Rabab said, this will help other families and other societies to discover at the end, the bodies of their loved ones.
I think that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. But now the main blockage of the justice work is in France, the secret défense, the declassification of the archives of the French intelligence, was closely involved in the preparation and in the execution of the abduction. Until now, we can't have the judges can't have any possibility to have the documents of the French intelligence. I wrote to the president, all the presidents from de Gaulle until now, with no response and no possibility to have access to these archives. I wrote to all the prime ministers, all the ministers of defense, because the French intelligence depends on the ministers of defense. So no response. From Morocco refused now to respond to the French justice to make investigation in Morocco. Morocco, there is some high responsible of the Moroccan security were in Paris in 1965 during the abduction, and they are now in Morocco. But they refuse to respond to refuse to ask to the French justice and to come in France, or even to give testimonies from what they know about the abduction of my father. And they still now live calmly in Morocco without any trouble from the Moroccan officials. But it's something important now. We know that the bodies of three of the gangsters, of the member of the gangster members who was make the abduction of my father. They flight to Morocco after the abduction, and they lived there until 1972. 1972, and themselves were victims of abductions and were executed in the secret jail in the neighborhood of Rabat, 200 meters from the American embassy. And they were executed in this place, and they were buried there. We know they are buried there, but something horrible. We was told that the head of my father was brought in Morocco to be shown to Hassan II, was also buried in this place. But till now, the Moroccan authorities refused to make excavations at that place to be sure or not sure what is there. And now we ask for that for 20 years. 20 years ago we know about this information. Until now, the Moroccan authorities refused to make any excavation in this place. This place which is filmed by a French journalist, and we are not sure of that, but we should be sure if there has been any investigation in that place. Look, now it is practical things we could be done to help us to approach the truth, but they are not done. There is also the conspiration of silence. There was a conspiration of criminals to make the abduction made, and now it is a conspiracy of silence to avoid the truth to be known by the family, by also by the society. And today this class shows that the truth about the abduction of Barka is crucial to be known, from not only from his family but also from the international society. So the idea of a committee of writing to the national the UN is a good idea. Now we are still in France having a judicial investigation. So till now we didn't want to make international judicial work until the end of the judicial investigation in France. But this idea is a good idea, and I think we'll think about very carefully. Thank you.
Yes, but still, I can speak.
Yes, please. I was going to call on you.
I am very optimistic that maybe in the coming years it will be possible to know the truth about about Ben Barka case, because the majority of the people who were implied in the assassination and abduction died or are very, very old. And also because in 2007 or 8, I don't remember, there was a possibility, to reach and to discover the truth. Because of in this year, 2007 or 8, it was during the times of President Sarkozy, and the French government published an arrest warrant against Moroccan nationals as implied in the abduction of Ben Barka. Imagine that. It was impossible for, at this epoch for 40 years, but in 2007 or 8, the French government started a process to ask for the arrest of Moroccan nationals.
Excuse me.
Please, just
No, it was not the French government. It was the French judge.
yes, but this, in English, government is the all responsibles, parliament, administration, judges. It means the French body. But it was decided by the presidency. And so because there was a problem, Morocco refused to buy warplanes from France, and France wanted to impose this because there is some kind of unjust economic relationship between France, the former colonial power, and and Morocco. And that after that, Morocco was obliged to buy a very high-speed train that was 5 billion euros. At this epoch, $6 billion. And Morocco didn't need a train as speedy as that, as expensive as that. But so please, you can explain your.
I'm going to ask you. We have only 10 minutes left, so I want to just suggest a couple of ideas and then give you the chance to close us in. I was just thinking a few things. One is to also popularize the ideas of Ben Barka. Maybe have more of his writings possible, maybe in smaller pamphlets, not only big books. Just publish short ones, smaller ones, so everybody can read and understand, because not many people know about his life, not many people know about the struggle or his role, and so on. Now there is a lot of interest among young people of this struggle for justice, of coming together, of third worldness, and so on. I think that would be very useful, and to have it online and to make it available for translation and so on. That's one major thing. I saw a lot of videos, but I don't know, some of them I don't know their sources. I can't give them to my classes because I never say, you go check if this authentic or not, and so on. It's okay, but I can put it online here. So
if you make sure that it can be published in the States, I can prepare a monography about 60 pages.
Yeah, I don't have access to public, but I'm saying in general we can talk about this. The second idea is that you can ask the French government, you ask the judges, you can ask anybody like this. They will continue saying no, because it's not in their interest to have yet another scandal that shows how nasty they are, because nothing comes out of them is nasty. But that might be a way to actually have maybe bodies that have some kind of power to do. But I know there are international bodies for disappeared, that there is more and more and more people coming together, and they don't do it all the time, but it gives you it gives you the moral authority that makes them look. There is the International Court of Justice. Look how many rulings they did about Gaza. It's not stopping Israel, but it's making Israel much more isolated, and it has a moral predicament. So that might be a way. It might, I think popularizing the case and making it part of this international thing will pressure. It doesn't mean that they're going to respond and so on, but will pressure people in the progressive movement in Morocco to feel more proud, and whoever is getting really tired of doing it and getting demoralized and so on will get more stronger and will get more energized to say there is a very big movement in Palestine now, which has been very small in the past, to regain the bodies of the martyrs. Now at least 700 unknown bodies are being found, let alone everyone else, and then people are recognizing more and more. It was Chile, Brazil, and Argentina at one point, and then it died. Like people were not paying attention at all, even though it's a huge injustice. Now things are getting revived again. So I think it's really important for people to come together, to think with each other, even if we do it online. I think this would be people learn from each other, embody each other, strengthen each other. These are some of the things that I think it's really important to raise them in world social forums, in multiple pays, and so on. Maybe Cuba might be interested in doing something like this, since they close OSPAL. Maybe they'll do this to kind of like make up for closing OSPAL. And so, I mean, they might, maybe Venezuela, maybe Brazil will host something of this sort. Maybe the people who are want back the bodies of the martyrs and so on. It might be something always coming together brings strength. And I'm going to just stop and have each one of you say 2 minutes to just close, and then we can, unfortunately, we have to stop. So Bashir, please go ahead.
Yes. The disappearance of Mehdi was a political murder. So to know the truth, we need political decisions. Yes, first from France or from Morocco, but it will be difficult. So we need a pressure, international pressure, and pressure from the civil society, but pressure also from political society through the world to say we want to know the truth on the abduction of a leader of independence, but a leader of international solidarity. So that's what we need, and we need also to popularize the works and the thoughts of Mehdi. So we have some books, some publication in French. I sent them to you. Said we need translation and to put them on the line. That it's free. It's free rights publications. So we think about. And thank you very much, Dr. Rabab, for this class. So we had the opportunity to know each other, and the opportunity to make your students know more about Mehdi, about his work, and about his abduction. Thank you very much.
Just a few days ago, I met with some young people from the Generation Z Moroccan movement of youth, and they asked me why, because they are mainly, struggling and acting for a better education and health services. They asked me why at the beginning of independence there were no good policies in education. So I told them because Ben Barka was killed and because he was marginalized, and then he was obliged to leave the country. Because in one day in 1956, just 3 months after the independence of Morocco, Ben Barka said in a conference that education is not one of the ways to develop. It is the only one to develop our country. And just to give you an idea why he was killed, Hassan II, as a conservative leader, decided that the school and education were the main enemy of the absolutism of the monarchy. And he said that 3 times publicly. In 1965, 3 months before the kidnapping of Ben Barka, and because there was demonstrations for democracy and social justice in Casablanca, it's very known, March 1965. Hassan II, gave an official, talk, and he said there is no more dangerous for the state as intellectuals. Imagine, directly that education and the intellectuals are the main danger against the Moroccan state. This is to show the difference between a conservative leader and a progressive leader as Ben Barka.
Laith, can you bring us all back on the screen, please? I
Take
will
you
just
too late. It take you too late for.
no. Yeah, I want to first of all thank you so much,
Thank
Laith.
you.
Yes.
Can you bring us all back on the screen, please? Where's Laith? Yeah, you too.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, I want to close us by thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Laith for running it like there are no problems, because you know that the person is doing such a great job when you don't feel there are any problems. Because we have no staff. The two of us are doing all of this. We are very happy to have you here. We're
Were
very
there
sad.
students
We're
following us?
Yeah, this is it. We're just doing it, the two of us. We are so happy that we are so appreciative of your generosity of time, of your knowledge, of your heart, of your intellectual abilities to be able to come share this with us, with our students, and with anybody who is going to be learning from this, and to your commitment to the movement, your commitment to justice, and our condolences for the loss, the personal loss, the loss to the movement in Morocco, to the movement in Africa, to the movement in the Arab world, to the movement in the third world, to the movement of humanity. It's a huge loss. And after 6 years, it is not forgotten, and it shouldn't be forgotten. This is really important for us to keep remembering. Never, ever, ever to forget the contributions of people, the contributions of leaders, the sacrifices people make. Never ever forget our martyrs. Even though they never die, they always stay in our minds. We thank you
Yes, yes.
from our hearts. I personally have learned a lot and have been recruited in this movement, and really appreciate you being here and giving us the opportunity to remind people that bin Barka is alive. الشهداء لا يموتون أبدا. Martyrs never die. They stay in our memories, in our hearts, in our minds, and we should never allow anybody to erase them and erase their memories. And we demand accountability and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabab, for this
Right.
initiative.